So all the families, because they couldn't depend totally on the income from fishing, always had these massive big gardens which everybody shared with each other. And some of the families built root cellars. There was one just out in front of our home where my mom and dad would have all the potatoes, carrots, onions, all the different vegetables stored in that root cellar. They did fish in the winter through the ice, but they never seemed to be able to catch a lot of fish. There was a market for them, but there wasn't a lot of fish during that time. So the vegetables and the apple orchard that my grandma and grandpa had planted across the road kept us well supplied in fruit, and we had raspberry bushes and strawberry bushes. So in many ways, between the trapping and even the duck hunting, we ate ducks in the fall when they caught them. And the one delicacy that we all loved were the bullfrog legs, and that was a real delicacy that we didn't get very often. Some people thought that we ate fish every day, but actually, I said to my brother the other day, we didn't eat fish that much, did we? And he said, no. Most of the time, they just wanted to sell them to get the money. We did have fish, but not a lot. As prosperous as the commercial fishing could be at times, it was a very hazardous a time also, and the wives always worried when their spouses and their children went out fishing, because the winds could come up hardly without any warning and could capsize a boat. And this actually happened to my brother Foster in 1980. He was fishing in Bay of Quinte with a partner named Dick, and he got this huge catch of pickerel, and he hauled them into the boat, and the wind came up, and it blew the boat over and capsized the boat. And my brother was able to get Dick on the top of the boat and got an oar, and Dick seemed to immediately, his legs became paralyzed, so he couldn't even balance himself on the boat as the waves were blowing the boat back and forth. And so he stayed that way with him all night. And as day broke, he said, "I gotta go, Dick. I gotta swim to shore and get you help," because there was nobody around. And so Dick had the oar, holding it to try and balance himself. And Foster started to swim, and he just got beyond where Dick could reach out the oar to help save him, but it was just farther than what he could reach. And my brother drowned at that time, and he wasn't very far from shore. So as I was growing up, and it did change after about the 1980s, but there were always wooden boats, and the Schumans were the sort of the famous people of the whole area that built these boats. But there was other boats also that each individual family would build for themselves. And the one boat that I remember so well was called the Lattice, and that was a boat that was owned by the Quicks. And that was a boat that they used to go out in the lakes. But then there was smaller boats, and they were called punts. And very often they would take the nets in the punts, set the nets, and then go back, say in a couple of days, and lift the nets with the punts. So they didn't always need a bigger boat like the Lattice, but the punts became very valuable because they could trailer them as they had motorized vehicles to different areas instead of having to travel for miles and miles on the water. So to sort of sum up what I remember about the times growing up here in Gosport, certainly because I was young and intimidated by what people would say, and sometimes I would even be ashamed to say that I was from Gosport, but the life lessons I learned have stayed with me all my life. And I often now comment to people when they say, "Oh, do you live at Gosport?" I say, "Yeah, it's God's country. You should come down sometime." And also, at one time, you probably could have bought all of Gosport for a few $1,000s, and now a lot 2 doors up from here was sold for 260,000 about 10 years ago. So it's changed a lot, but when I was growing up, it was known as Shantytown. But there's a lot of good life lessons to learn in a small village because everybody looks after everybody else, and I embrace that. And that's the Gosport I remember.